No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
Hello and welcome to episode 64 of the About to Break podcast. This is going to be my conversation with rock drummer Kenny Aronoff. It's a good one. I don't even know where that sound came from. You ever make a sound and then you're like, I didn't even know I could do that, or I probably should not do that. Anyway, this is a good episode. Before we get into it, again, I just always want to thank the producers. It takes about 3 minutes to go on to abouttobreakpodcast.com, click on the Become a Producer button, and for as little as $1 a month, you could be a producer of the show. Once you start doing like $3 or $4 or $5, you get some really cool rewards. But heck, man, for $1, you could put it on your resume. You want me to write a reference letter that says you are a producer of a well-loved podcast? I will do that for you because you took a few minutes and went online and donated to this podcast. Again, thank you to everyone who helps us produce this show. It does take time, it does take money, and it's because of you that we're able to put these out. So thank you to everyone who's done that. If you haven't yet, why not go over right now? Check out abouttobreakpodcast.com, click on the Become a Producer button, and by supporting us through Patreon, you're going to get some behind-the-scenes looks. In fact, I shot a little video at Kenny's studio. You can get to that and all sorts of other goodies by just going on and becoming a producer. So thank you again to everyone who's done that. Couple of shows I've got coming up. First of all, March 26th through April 1st, I'll be performing in the Late Parlor at the Magic Castle. I'm really looking forward to that. I've got some new stuff I've been working on, and I can't wait to debut it. It's going to be brand new stuff that I'm debuting at the castle. And then on March 27th, that same week, since I'm doing the late shows, we're sneaking in and About to Break Live on March 27th. That's our monthly show that happens at the Clubhouse Theater in LA. Clubhouse is a killer improv venue, super fun. It looks like an old Radio Shack or something when you first pull up. You're gonna miss it if you've never been there before, but it's right next to the John's grocery store, and then you walk in through this storefront and it opens up to this incredible theater. We're gonna be there March 27th with buddies Michael Rayner, who you've heard on the podcast, and Wes Barker, who you will hear shortly on the podcast. He's a magician from Canada. He's got over 50 million views on YouTube. He's hilarious. And Michael Rayner is just one of my favorite people. Such a rad dude. I get to ask questions that I forgot to ask or didn't think about till after they were on the show. And you get to see them perform live. So it's a little conversation, a little connection, a little comedy, and a little magic. It's going to be great. Come on out. All right, guys, that's it. That's all I've got to plug. Thank you to all the producers. And thank you to everyone who's been coming out to the live shows. That next one again, March 27th, going to be killer. Hope to see you there. Let's get into this conversation with Kenny Aronoff. Recently, Rolling Stone featured the top 100 drummers of all time, and I can guarantee you one of the first names they put on that list when they were in the meeting was Kenny Aronoff. Forbes magazine just called him the hardest hitting man in show business. He is one of the hardest working guys I've ever met. Played with everyone from Bob Dylan to Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, B.B. King. If you have heard that little ditty about Jack and Diane with that iconic drum fill, that is Kenny Aronoff. We talk about how that song and that fill changed his life. If you're the type of person that would do anything for love, you know, and you love that song by Meatloaf because you're like, that's me. I would do anything for love. I'd even do that. Not only did Kenny play on that, but he has played on records that have sold over 300 million copies. I'd encourage you right now to go to Netflix, put on your watch list. There's a show called Hired Gun. It's a documentary about session musicians and touring musicians and the guys who are really the ones backing up and kind of leading the charge for these incredible artists that we come to know and love. And we get to talk about that a little bit. Kenny's an interesting dude, and I'll tell you why. He's got a very healthy ego. Like, he knows who he is, he's confident in who he is, but he also realizes that he didn't get there without a lot of hard work. And so he's constantly editing himself and thinking, how can I get better at this? How can I keep pushing forward? He talks about not living life looking in the rearview mirror, but just pushing ahead. It's a fast-paced conversation full of stories I know that will encourage you and entertain you. Sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with drumming legend Kenny Aronoff. I am sitting down in North Hollywood, California with living rock legend Kenny Aronoff.
How you doing?
Dude, I'm so stoked. We're doing this.
You're in my studio.
We're in your studio. This is a killer setup. How long you been here?
6-8 years, maybe.
Okay.
It started out as a practice place. The place I had, basically, I was living in Indiana, and I had a huge, amazing studio there. It was the type of thing where the doors to the studio were so big I could move road cases into the recording studio.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
a room built inside a room. It was no walls were touching. It was floating ceiling. So I could practice 24 hours a day and record in there. And so I could open the doors of the studio, it goes into a 3-car garage, and a big semi could come up, and I could load all my road cases.
Oh,
and
man.
It was all designed for touring, and that's back in the day when they had budgets. And everything was just, I could have in one bay, because I had one bay open just for road cases. I could load all my stuff in, prepare for tour, send it off. Anyway, it's all out in LA now. So this room here you're sitting in is the drum room with, for those who are listening, it's like all my drums are mic'd with very expensive mics. And then there's the mics
Just
going.
racks of snares.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, dude, next door I have rooms of snares. So the mic cables go into a snake. The snake goes out of the room over top and drops into a room across the hall, which is where the recording studio is, where the actual
engineer
sits there, and the hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gear sitting there to make me sound like Kenny Aronoff.
That's killer, man.
It's called Uncommon Studios LA. www.uncommonstudios.la. Or you go to www.kennyaronoff.com, and there you can hit everything.
I'm going to put links to all that. So if you're listening, just go to the show notes. You can check out Kenny. But man, you've played. I got to say this. This is how we met. We were doing an event, and you were playing, and I was emceeing, doing some comedy magic stuff. And the band was like kind of like an all-star band.
Yeah.
And I was most excited when I walked up, and I was like, "Is that Kenny Aronoff?" Like, I can't believe it, man, because you have played with everybody.
Well, let me explain.
Like everybody.
Yeah. Well, when I came up with my book, Sex, Drums, Rock and Roll, about a year ago, they were saying, well, we need some taglines to sell it.
Yeah.
They said, well, how many records you played? And I went, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I don't have a rear view mirror in my life. Everything is
That's
forward.
so good.
Yeah. So I had to do research. It was hard to find because, musicians now are such in the backseat. Nobody cares. It used to be, you look at album covers or the back and you know who's on the album and what they look like.
Now everything's digital and it's all, you just get the audio. No one even gets like, I for the longest time, man, was still buying CDs because I wanted to see I want to feel the paper. I want to see who's in the band, who played. And
even that got bad. I mean, you couldn't hear. Anyway, I have file cabinets of all my sessions. I write insanely detailed. I'll show you in a little bit.
Yeah.
How I write every note out. So it was a weird habit. So I've got files of every session from somewhere at the beginning of the 80s until now.
Yeah.
Kept the CDs and that plus research I came up with. I've recorded on over 300 million records sold. Wow. 2 Celine Dion records sold 40 million. Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. 2 with I'll Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That, sold over 40 million. This is not even downloads. So that's the best I could come up with. And then 1,300 gold, platinum, diamond records and 60 nominated or won Grammys. I mean, but let me be clear. I mean, this didn't just fall into my lap.
Right,
I didn't take a pill and wait. I didn't wait for stuff to happen. I made it happen. I mean, and that's what I speak about all the time. Is like, man, you're going to suffer. You're going to fail. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel embarrassed. You're going to get fired. All these negative things, man, that's just common. That's just
and it happens in any job.
Yeah, man. Don't sulk. Just realize, everybody goes through this, but the people who keep moving forward become successful. I'm sure you got your ass kicked left and right trying to make it. Everybody does.
Oh, yeah.
So if you sit there and go, woe is me, guys like me and you are going to go and take what they're waiting for. What they're waiting to come to them, I'm going to grab it and run with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, for the people listening, yes, we were playing in Arizona, was it?
Yeah. Scottsdale,
And I get invited to the after party. and you're there. I don't know that you know me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And you, all of a sudden, you start doing your amazing magic, and all of a sudden you direct it towards me, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Not knowing that you know me.
Yeah.
And that you would like, it was kind of a setup. It was great though, man. It was, I don't know what and how you did it, but it is definitely feels like magic. I mean, it's trippy. It'd be like, you walk into a building and then when you walk out, you got polka dots on your face and you didn't ever feel anybody touch you. Well, all of a sudden you walk out of the building, you have no clothes on. How did that happen? How about that one guy with the watch he was missing? And this that guy is like the type of guy that doesn't trust anything.
Really?
You picked the right guy.
Oh my goodness.
He's the guy
I stole his watch that night.
Yeah, he'd be the guy I go like, I don't believe in magic. Meanwhile, his mouth dropped. He's like, he couldn't put it together, which is great.
Oh,
That's
thanks,
great
man. Yeah, no, I was just like, oh, I'm going to do a card. They wanted me to do a card trick. I'm like, I'm going to do it for Kenny.
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, that's what brought us together.
Yeah, man. I've always, the same thing I love about magic, I love about music, is that it transports you. Like all of a sudden, you're not thinking about everything else going on. You're just into this zone because of the art that someone's creating. When did music first like grab you where you were like, this is something I want to do?
Well, it's 1964. I'm outside playing with my brother, and my mom yells at us to come in, me and my brother to come inside, and I thought I was in trouble because she's screaming. And I get in there, and on our old black and white RCA TV set, with the rabbit ears and the tin foil to get better reception, was the Ed Sullivan Show. And I'm looking at this. Yeah, you know what's coming. And I'm looking at it, and there's 4 guys on there with suits and long hair tapping their feet and singing She Loves You, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm bouncing off the walls. I didn't know who they were. Never felt anything like that, ever seen anything like that, but I knew I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So I said to my mom, who are these guys? She said, they're the Beatles. And I said, well, I want to play in them. Call them up. I want to play with them. Just a naive little kid going like, I want this. Give it to me now.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking, and of course she didn't call them up. So I started a band 2 weeks later called the Alley Cats, and we played Beatles music.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing because I talk about that I'm a fight guy. There is no.
Okay.
I didn't know that about myself, but when I wrote my autobiography, I had to look back. I went, I always look at myself as the nice guy. I can take everything. I'm a soldier.
Yeah.
Tell me what to do. I'll do it. I'll take yes, sir, no, sir. Meanwhile, my mom said, didn't call the Beatles up. So I went, well, that's just not acceptable. So I created my own band. Just like later on, people, when Mellencamp tried to tell me I wasn't going to play on the first record.
That's right, man.
I said, no, I'm not going home.
I would love for you. So, this podcast is focused on artists dealing with trying to break into the industry before it breaks them. So I love that story. I just saw Hired Guns.
Yeah, it's in Hired Gun.
Hired Gun documentary on Netflix, killer. Like most of it's about Kenny and all the stuff he's done.
I filmed that right here.
Did you film that in here?
That's where I was sitting, where I was doing that whole Jack and Diane, sitting right in front of that set. So anyway, I'm going to get to that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about seeing the Beatles, and I told Ringo right to his face that I am playing drums because I saw him when I was 11. I'm playing rock and roll since I was 11 because of him, and he basically set me on my course. At 11 years old, it brought me to where I am now. I played 50 years later.
Yeah.
After seeing them on that iconic show that 72 million people saw. 50 years later, I'm the only drummer out of that 72 million that ended up on that stage 50 years later, honoring Paul and Ringo, the 2 remaining Beatles, for that Ed Sullivan Show. So, okay, whoa. So, dreams come true, but like I said a minute ago, it didn't happen by accident. I made my success. I made my career. It was no giving me this and giving me that.
Right.
So let's then advance a little bit. Fast forward to that's 1964. Let's fast forward to 1980, I'll back up a little bit. Actually, when I played in bands when I was a kid.
Yeah,
and wishing and naively thinking I was going to make it.
Okay, you just thought like no one ever told you that's not possible when you're a kid. No,
that was the cool thing upbringing. I had a lot of you can do anything you want.
Yeah, supportive parents.
Yep. So that's a big factor. The supportive parents will either help you,
Right.
or if you have not supportive parents, if it's really what you want to do, it'll push you even harder.
Yeah, it's true.
You know,
it's true. Yeah.
So I didn't take lessons. I was just playing in bands, and then what happened was like my mom taught me piano. Then we got piano lessons. Then when I saw the Beatles, I wanted to play drums. So in school, it's 4th grade. They ask you what instrument you want to play. I went drums.
Yeah.
Well, they give you a rubber pad.
Right. It's not the same.
And I didn't pray. He was trying to get me to read music so I'd be in the band, the high school band. I didn't want to do anything like that. So, but I learned a little bit. But my mom, when I told my mom I didn't want to play piano anymore, she said, "No, you have to play piano because you need that." And I took the piano music.
Yeah.
Ripped it up in front of her, threw it at her face, and ran around the table going, drums, 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 drums. She just,
wow.
What could she do? So I played in rock and roll bands. I was a kid that, went to school. It was a big social life thing for me. It was like, that's where I hung out with my friends. I was on a 3 Letterman jock by the time I was a sophomore. So I was popular as an athlete, popular socially. And then when I had those rock and roll bands,
yeah,
I was getting laid. That was the final thing. I was like happening. So school was great, but then it was time to go to college. And about 2 years before I went to college, I started studying with the percussionists from the Boston Symphony Orchestra because they had their summer festival 3 miles from my house where I grew up in Western Mass.
Oh, wow.
Called Tanglewood. So I started studying with this teacher Arthur Press, because there was a kid in town that was a drummer who was getting better than me. And I wondered, what are you doing? So I'm studying with this guy, Arthur Press. But the thing is, he was an orchestral guy.
So it was like timpani stuff and
timpani and mallets.
Wow.
And so I showed up for my first lesson.
Yeah.
Really hungover because I had been out hanging out with the football seniors, jocks, and the soccer and all the cheerleaders. And drinking vodka up on a hill with a bonfire in the Western Mass. I show up for my first lesson drunk, and that guy, Arthur Press, I show up and says, "What's your name, son?" It's all serious business. Kenny. He says, "Kenny what?" And he goes, "Oh, Kenny Aronoff already." I'm like, "Uh-oh." And he goes, "What have you prepared for me today?" I'm like,
like he wants you to do a piece, and you're like, "What is that even?"
Exactly.
Usually someone starts playing, and I start playing, and that's what we do.
He said, like, have you prepared a mallet piece for me? And I'm like, what are mallets? And he just looks at me. He could have been at that point 20 feet tall, and I was a blade of grass. I felt so inferior. Yeah. And then I said, I don't play mallets. And he says, well, did you prepare a timpani piece for me? I went, no, I don't play timpani. I've never played timpani. I never played a marimba in my life. Yeah. He says, well, what do you play? Yeah. And what are you doing here? Yeah. And I said, I play drum sets. So he said, oh, okay. Well, let's come down. He brings me downstairs to the basement. There's a drum set there. He says, puts on a Blood, Sweat, and Tears spinning wheels. He said, play for me. Start playing.
Did you know the song?
I did.
Okay.
But in 30 seconds, he rips me off the drum set and points to a rubber pad and says, starting here. And that was the beginning of me getting my ass kicked. And for some reason, I could have easily gone like, I don't need this shit, man. I'm playing in rock and roll bands.
Yeah.
I'm playing Hendrix. I'm playing Zeppelin. I'm playing Beatles. I'm playing the Stones. I'm playing Allman Brothers. What the hell do I need this? But something told me that I do need it. So I started practicing it. He helped me get into college. There was no School of Rock back then. So I got into the University of Massachusetts, which was a school primarily for classical music and jazz. And believe it or not, there was no drum set teacher there. So I studied classical. Yeah. It was kind of naive. Like, see, sometimes going to college you just get on the train and it takes you just follow orders. You have to take these classes, right? And you do it for 4 years. I did it for 5 years. Well, during that year, I knew when I was 18, the summer, I get into UMass barely. Yeah. The reason why the guy accepted me, because he saw how intense I was about, he put some music in front of me. In your audition, you have to prepare pieces on mallets, timpani, snare drum, and then they will ask you rudiments. Can you play a single stroke roll? Can you play a paradiddle? Can you play this scale on marimba? Can you give me a crescendo from pianissimo to forte on a timpani? Then they put music in front of you to sight read.
And you're flashing back to being the 8-year-old kid ripping up the paper.
I'm freaking.
I'm not going to learn this.
Well, I just completely blew it, and he told us to take the music away, and I grab it back.
Wow.
This is like just all in me, the fight or fight thing.
Yeah,
there it is
yeah.
again. I went, no. I could not stand failure. So I grabbed it and I tried again, and pretty shitty. He grabs it away again, I grab it back, said no.
Yeah.
That's why he accepted me. Because he went, I'm going to love teaching this guy. This guy's not going to give up. And that is my nature. So I was the worst percussionist, and I would practice till they kicked me out of the building at night. I remember, senior girls it was a big thing. Who's going to fuck Kenny? And I was just like, no, my priorities were I was so freaked out about being so bad when I had been, really popular in high school. It was a varsity I was my brother and I, twin brother, he was president, I was vice. I mean, we were the so popular. Now I'm thrown into a situation where I may be popular as a person, but my skill level was down. I was humiliated. So
you're dealing with this self-esteem thing and going like, no, I'm going to focus my energy on this, not on the social side. I
was to the point where, and in my speech, I talk about the value of time. I remember thinking, okay, it takes 15 minutes to walk from the music school to my dorm.
Yeah.
And I'm got to do that like 4 times. That's an hour I'm wasting. How can I bring this down to a half hour? I started figuring out, like, walk in straight lines, even if you're going across the street, time it so the cars are by so you can run over, don't go over the crosswalk, go on a diagonal. I mean, all kinds of weird shit. And there was a hot chick there, as hot as you can be in classical music. She was a cellist, and she said, I'm going to go to Aspen this summer. Now, Aspen is run by Juilliard, a really prestigious summer festival. And I went, ooh, Aspen. So I prepare an audition.
Okay.
To get into Aspen. And this is Kenny Aronoff style. They ask you to do 3 different things out of 4 categories: timpani, snare drum, mallets, and multiple percussion. So I do all 4.
Okay.
Now the pieces I pick aren't like what some of these other kids are doing, because I'm still green, I'm getting better, but I'm not.
Yeah.
It takes time. There's the time thing. And anyway, the school ends that semester, and I don't ever hear from Aspen. I'm got my dad's car, and I'm going to study with the percussion from Boston Symphony Orchestra. I got a killer Allman Brothers band.
Yeah.
And I got a legitimate girlfriend, not the cellist, the legitimate girlfriend back home. And I'm leaving, and I'm 2 miles out of town. I go, shit, I forgot my mail. Oh, damn. All right, I got to go back. I go back, and I looked, and it looked like there was a check, somebody had paid me to play or something.
Yeah.
Open up, accepted to Aspen.
No way. And you almost drove away without it.
Yeah, in 2 weeks I had to be there. So I think I was an alternate.
Okay.
You don't tell somebody 2 weeks before. I go there.
Yeah.
She didn't show up. She didn't go. I was by far the absolute worst percussionist there. I'm playing scales, boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Well, and most of these guys who are doing that, they grew up listening to classical. You're growing up playing rock.
Yeah, they were in diapers and they were playing timpani. Yeah, New York guys, they went to Juilliard Prep. It was on their mind to get into an orchestra when they were little.
Right.
It was on my mind to be on stage with the Who or the Beatles or the Stones.
But this is going to help get you there.
Well, see, this is the weird thing. What was I thinking? I was just, if this is what you want to do, why didn't I do it?
Yeah.
But there was a bigger, I can't even tell you why. It was a bigger, doesn't matter, I did it. So I'm there. Did you ever see that movie Whiplash?
No.
Well, the teacher is screaming and yelling and throwing shit at the kid. The worst Marine drill sergeant you could ever meet. I mean, just 2 inches from killing you. This conductor there, I came in, a big Tchaikovsky piece where the strings are going, you're supposed to hit cymbals in the middle. They lead this huge long line into drum, and I missed it because I was counting, and I should have just memorized 8 measures before my entrance
Yeah,
that's so
yeah.
logical, but I
Right.
was learning how to count, and I'm like, I had to count 300 measures, so I'm going, was that 202 or 203?
Oh, no.
Completely blew it, and he humiliated me. Made me count in front of the orchestra. They're all looking at me, laughing at me. At least that's what it felt like. And then when I got to the part where I was supposed to play, I didn't play because he didn't tell me to play.
Yeah.
Then he started screaming at me again. It was just absolutely out of line and no reason.
Right.
So I was humiliated. I was in tears. I was devastated. I would put my music, my briefcase on the with my music and mallets on the bus, and I'd run over the mountain and beat the bus. It was like the long side of a triangle where the bus would do the other sides.
Yeah.
I'd get there. I was disciplined. And that teacher there was the guy that was teaching at Indiana University, which is the #1 classical music school in the country.
Right.
Still is.
Yeah.
It's off the hook. It's the biggest school in the world, I think, for it's off the hook. Anyway, so I'd heard about Indiana, and I told the teacher he was deep, really intelligent, and really gifted about everything, and an amazing teacher, and was turning my head around about the way to think.
Yeah.
And so I said, I want to go where you are. He said, well, just come in the fall and audition. I went, no, now.
So this is the guy who reamed you in front of all these people?
Not that guy.
Not that guy. Okay.
He did that later.
Okay.
The conductor did.
Yeah. But you tell this teacher, I want to go now with you.
And so he had to find 4 faculty to get into Indiana University. You have to audition in front of 4 faculty from 4 different departments. Could be vocal, strings, brass, woodwinds, opera singers. And there were 4 teachers from Indiana. They're from 4 different departments. I audition. I get in.
So you're not even on campus. This isn't... You're
in
still...
Colorado. I go from there. I drive at the end of the summer to Indiana, take entrance exams and all this shit, fly home. 4 days later, I'm driving back with all my shit. And I'm now in the #1 school, and I worked my way from the bottom to the top, to the point where I was playing a marimba concerto. I could play it right now if I can get my computer out.
Yeah.
Remember, I only played marimba when I was 18 in that audition. This is 5 years later. I won a concerto competition. Here's the end of it.
For marimba?
It's a famous violin concerto that I saw Itzhak Perlman play as his encore. Check this out.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, man?
For years,
I mean, if people don't know, like, visually what it looks like playing marimba, that's just insane to picture you doing that.
Yeah,
like,
because on a violin, the neck is so small,
right?
Even though it's difficult, you're kind of in one area,
right?
But to do that on marimba,
you're
flying
all over the place.
So the bottom line is, and the point of this long story is, I worked my ass off, got crushed, got stepped on, got embarrassed. But in 5 years, I went from never playing a marimba to that.
Yeah.
And that came from just sure discipline, hard work, perseverance. No matter what negative emotion you're going through, you keep going. You keep going.
Right.
Because the people who were affected and left, I saw guys have nervous breakdowns. By the way, this guy, this teacher, George Gaber at IU, this is like you joining the Navy SEALs. And they have to, theoretically, they don't have to, but his feeling was, this school is #1 because we have #1 students.
Okay.
And he will weed the fuck out of anybody who can't handle it. He would crush you, but the people who came out become me.
A lot of people, Kenny, they think that when someone pushes against you like that they're saying you can't do it. They're just trying to see if you're going to push back. Because they probably say that to everybody. I've talked with guys who are like the top in their game in an area, and they say when someone asks me, how can I do what you do? I say, you can't. Because if that's going to cut them like out, then they weren't going to do it anyway.
Exactly. That's if they accept I can't, then they can't.
Yeah. Buddy.
So
it's nuts. So
I graduate.
Yeah.
Now check this out. During the 4 years at Indiana University, I had to play opera every semester and full academics, and it's an intense program. Well, in my sophomore year, first year at Indiana University, I wanted to get into Tanglewood, which was next, 3 miles from my house, which is run by the Boston Symphony Orchestra, the number one student orchestra in the country, if not the world.
Wow.
They only accept 7 percussionists in the whole world every summer.
Wow.
So, and Vic Firth, the guy who makes my sticks, who eventually became my teacher, was the timpanist in the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and he would be the guy I auditioned for. So go to Boston, audition, completely fucked it up. This was at another level. You do stuff like, you'd say, all right, hit the timpani. That's an A. Tune it to an A. You tune it.
Yeah.
Now I want you to now tune it to a E. Now tune it down to a B. Now tune
all
it
by
back,
ear.
All by ear. And when you're done, you're supposed to be at a certain note. And, I completely blew it. Or he'd tell you to sing a note. And then he'd want you to then sing this next note. And then this next note, this next note, and this next note. And when you're done, you should be at this note. And I blew it. And all kinds of things. Sight reading, I stunk. And so I come back the next year.
Yeah.
I fail. Again. I come back a third year.
Yeah.
I fail. Strike out. Went back a fourth year and fucking got in. There it is.
Just keep going.
You just keep going. This is the greatest running back in the NFL.
Yeah.
Get a touchdown every time he gets the ball?
No.
Of course not. He gets crushed. He might even get his leg broken. He comes back the next year. So what I do is I life coach myself all the time. I was telling you about the speaking business. You want it to happen like now. Well, guess what? It might not happen for 8 years the way I want to have it.
Right.
But I'm going to keep going because I believe in the method.
Yeah.
Of keep going.
Right.
It's like you working on a trick. You want this trick to work in 1 month, and guess what? It ain't going to work for a year. It's not going to work for a year. It just isn't.
Yep.
And that's where my time thing, when my speech, I talk about the value of time, man. It's like, you think about an Olympian that spends 4 years preparing, and then they lose the podium by 100th of a second.
Right.
4 long years, and yet 100th of a second, they lost it. Now they got to do another 4 years. I mean, at times a big thing. Well, anyway, I graduate. I get into the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra. I achieved my goal. I created a plan, I executed it, go to school, learn, get great. I went from shit to Shinola, and I'm in the Israel in the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra, and I turn it down.
Whoa.
Yeah, it blew me away, blew my parents away, blew everybody away.
You were shocked that you said no to
I was shocked.
And what in that moment made you say no?
The Beatles. I was still wanted to rock. I mean, I always was playing drums through college. I started studying with 2 teachers, and I realized I wanted to take all of that energy and that knowledge and just now really study the drum set to become a great drummer, to get into a great band, to record and tour like the Beatles.
Yeah.
So I spent a year at home humbly practicing 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. That was always...
What did that practice look like? Like, are you just pulling like different tunes, or how are you going from symphony to rock?
Well, what I would do, the teachers had technical lessons for me to do. But what I would then do after I do those lessons... is I would then start to transcribe like any drummer that I love, see if I could write out what he played. And then I'd practice those technical things till I got it right. And it was no shortcuts. I moved to Indiana to start a band. They talked me into it. Everyone says you shouldn't go to Indiana. There's nothing there. But there was this band, and one of the kids' dads invested $30,000 into, truck, lights, PA, equipment.
Yeah, I was going to set you guys up.
And we went into we got a band house, 7 guys in a band. We in the house, and we practiced. And after 3 years,
Wow.
nothing. So now I've spent another 4 years on top of the 5 years, and I have nothing.
And this is the point where a lot of people go, "Oh, I'll become a banker."
Right. So exactly. What are you going to do?
Right.
I'm 27 now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move to New York, and there's this. I heard about this band that's on MTV, and they're a new band. They're on the radio, and I suddenly realized, oh my God, that's like being in the Beatles. I mean, what am I thinking?
Huh.
I audition, and this band is Johnny Cougar.
Yeah.
I get in the band, but here's the big thing.
Yeah.
5 weeks later, we're in LA making a record.
Okay.
And in 2 days, we have a band meeting. We're staying at the Chateau Marmont on Sunset.
Yep.
So that's, for people who don't know, that's where, I mean, I saw De Niro when he was looked like Godfather 2. Yeah. Meryl Streep was a sex goddess with hair down to her ass, and just everybody lived there. It was the thing. And I'm recording in Hollywood. I tell everybody what I'm doing, and we have a band meeting, and John tells me I'm not going to play on the record and to go home. And I said no.
This was at this point, he wasn't saying you're out. He's just saying we're going to have someone else do the record, or what?
That's what he was saying, but
you know how it works.
I thought if I go home, it's over.
Yeah.
And there's no way I was humiliated. What am I going to go home?
You just told everyone you know.
Yeah.
I'm in Hollywood doing the thing.
Yeah, I'm so embarrassed, and so thank God. So I say, no. I just keep saying no, I'm not going home. And then I'm starting to fight or fight. I start going like, okay, trying to negotiate a deal that'll benefit the both of us. And I go, look, well, am I still the drummer in your band? And he looks at me perplexed and goes, and the whole band is looking at me with their eyes bugged out. Like, that's like saying no to a drill sergeant.
Right.
He tells you to do 100 push-ups. You go, nah, not today.
Yeah.
You don't say that to the guy like that. And so John's listening to me. He's kind of, can't believe I'm standing up to him. And I go, well, listen, am I the drummer in your band or what?
Right.
He goes, well, yeah, but you're not playing on the record. Well, then I'm gonna go to the studio and watch these other drummers play my parts, and I'm gonna learn from them and benefit. And if I benefit from that experience and get better, you'll benefit because I'm your drummer, and you don't have to pay me, and I'll sleep on the floor, which probably was the deal breaker. You don't have to pay me.
Right.
And I did learn a lot. And I learned a lot because what I didn't know was how to serve a song. And that's a big part of my speech is how to serve the team, serve the song. It's not about you. It's not your ego is big that gets you to be great. But when you're serving the song, the purpose of a drummer in a band or any session person, when they're making a record, is only one thing. Get the fucking song on the radio to be number one.
Yeah.
That's what it ain't about my drum part. I mean, my drum part's important, but it has to always be, is this part good enough to get this song on the radio? And John Mellencamp walked in rehearsals one day back then and said, listen, you guys, I write the same fucking song every time. Basically, it's not exactly true, but he's saying, I need you guys to come up with creative, innovative parts to make these songs hits.
Yeah.
And Kenny, if somebody can come up with a hipper beat than what you're playing, then we're playing that beat. And that applies to all you fuckers. That's how he said it.
Yeah.
That applies to all you guys because we want hit songs, whatever it takes. And you know what? He was right.
Yeah, he's right.
He was right. It's for the team. It's not about you. It's about the team.
Man.
And, and the whole Jack and Diane story was, I swore to my life that I was going to make that next record.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, we're in the studio. I'm still in the band. And by the way,
so you've toured now, playing these parts these other guys have come up with or whatever.
And John, basically, when I went home after 4 weeks, I set up an 8-hour practice routine focusing on specifically how I could become the drummer in a John Mellencamp band.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Up until then, I was looking through a telescope at the universe. Now I was looking through a microscope, the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And both are legitimate, but when you're young, you're trying to play more notes and be spectacular and wow everybody.
Right.
Now I had to learn how to wow them in a cool teamwork type of subtle way the right thing. I had to start listening to the radio night and day. Who are the bands? What does AC/DC do? What does the Creedence do? What does Toto do? What does the Stones do? Whatever's on the radio?
Yeah.
How can I learn? What is? Nobody tells you. There's no rule book.
No.
There's nobody saying, okay, this is what you got to do. I was on my own.
Yeah.
Greatest way to learn in many ways. So I'm learning how to become the right drummer. So yeah, I went on tour, opened up for the Kinks, which was like,
oh man,
unbelievable. I got to tell you,
that's like a pinch yourself. Like, is this real life?
I got to tell you a great story about this, just to give people out there what it's like. I'm on tour we're in a RV, and John said, because we didn't have any money.
Yeah,
but there was enough money from record label and to get us an RV and tour and to get our songs on the radio, which cost millions. There was money.
Oh yeah,
there was money.
But it's all going back into
because people sold CDs and records.
Right.
Back then it was records. So when they buy that, the record labels make money. They reinvest in the band like any business. So John told me, listen, he was basically telling me, man, nobody likes you. You're like, we'll deal with you. We'll give you a break, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
Man, I was just breathing with like anger and like, fuck you. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So I was the new guy, dealt with a lot of shit. And like I said, I was a 3-letterman jock. I was an A student. I was like the most popular guy in the world, but not in this camp. This is growing up time. So it was great. So I, go on tour. I got to tell you this side story where
this is when you're on tour with the Kinks.
We're on tour. The Kinks don't want you to have a long sound check, and they told John you cannot go down the ego ramps. There were these 2 ego ramps, so basically ramps that go out into the audience. On the right side was Ray Davies, and on the left side is Dave Davies.
Yeah.
And by the way, these 2 brothers didn't talk to each other. They hated each other.
Are you serious?
They wouldn't even walk. They even had security make sure the other guy wasn't in the hallway when they're going to the dressing room. Completely hate each other. They only saw each other on stage.
That's insane.
Yeah.
To think that it even would be cohesive at that point.
They played great together, but they hated each other. So John was not allowed to go down those ego ramps and not smoke.
Yeah.
So what do? John comes out smoking a cigarette every night, goes over each ego ramp, and he's like a rooster, cocky, and he throws a cigarette out, at the audience, runs down the other ego ramp. And, just John was incredible superstar trying to grab the audience.
Yeah.
Until his songwriting got better, and then he had both. But so they basically told us we couldn't have a sound check. They punished us.
Oh, because he went down the ramps and all that stuff.
So what we did the first song we did was a Humble Pie song called 30 Days in a Hole.
Okay.
30 Days in a Hole. So I'd come out and start a beat. Hit every drum. Until the engineer took a flashlight and flashed us that he had the drums. Then the bass player would come out and go boom, 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 boom. When he got him, flashlight, then the guitars. Meanwhile, the audience is like, wow, this is cool.
What a build, man.
Then the girls come out. 30 days in a hole. 30 days. And then John would come out, smoking a cigarette, strutting like a cocky motherfucker, go down one ego ramp, flick the cigarette into the audience, run over the other one, and then he'd say, get people to stand up, and he'd be like, going nuts. I mean, this guy was a rock star, and they eventually pulled the plug on us. But I loved that John. That's how much he wanted to make it.
Yeah,
and the reason why, at this point, he had lost his record deal. He had made a record in England, and his manager was Tony DeFries, who managed Bowie. And back then they would create stage names. This manager created Ziggy Stardust.
Okay, yeah.
So when John made a record and the record was done, I think it was called Biography. I think that's what it was called. He pushes the record across the table to John. This is in England.
Yeah.
And John looks at it, goes, who's Johnny Cougar? And he says, that's you. He says, my name's John Mellencamp. He says, it's not if you want this record to come out.
No way.
So now, you have to understand, Southern Indiana, his uncles were like bricklayers.
Yeah. The name means a lot.
Yes, exactly. So these guys would settle businesses with fistfights.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
I remember these guys, when they came on tour with us, big, just really good looking, but just like
Yeah.
badasses. They'd go swim in the pool, take their cowboy boots off, take off their tank tops, and swim in their blue jeans, Wranglers, like real cowboys. They were like real.
Like if there was a bridge, they'd be jumping off it.
Yeah, they was, and then they'd get dressed and they'd lay in the sun drinking a Budweiser and let their pants dry, and then they'd never take them off.
Yeah.
So
he'd tell John,
goes
like,
home.
this is your new name.
yeah, he goes home. He probably got his ass beat. What's wrong with John? What's wrong with your fucking Mellencamp name? It's the family name.
Wow.
Loses his deal a year later.
Yeah.
Now he's working for the telephone company, and his name is Johnny Cougar with no record deal. So now this is why
The same guy who was flicking cigarettes in
this
the
guy
audience
is not fucking around. He's grabbing everything, and he's screaming at us for parts. He does not want to go back to climbing telephone poles.
Yeah, I get
So-
it, man. You
2 years later, after that first record, I'm in the studio, and that's the story that you hear in Netflix. Somebody walks into the studio one day. It was the most difficult record I've ever made in my life. John was
wow.
really angry. He almost died in a motorcycle accident right in front of my eyes, 70 miles an hour down the highway in the cornfields. And it's dusk, and a dog comes running across the street. We couldn't see, it was so dark, but we saw his bike go down because we saw sparks flying, and then it hit a tree and kind of exploded.
Yeah.
That dog came out, hit the bike, went down. John was good enough to get on top of the bike while it's spinning, push off of the motorcycle before it hit a tree in the dark.
Crazy.
Yeah. So he's in a shit mood. He's limping around. He's got a cast
So
on.
he's at a point where he thought he lost his career. Then he thought he lost his life
Right.
almost. Now he's just like,
Now he's in the studio, and it's not going like it's, if you got problems in the practice room, they get magnified in the studio.
yeah, that's true.
And we just aren't educated enough and he wanted better ideas, but he couldn't afford to have the number one LA musician. He didn't want him anyway. John's he doesn't like people. He told me, I don't really get along with people. I don't like them. When I did Kennedy Center honors with him, when I was the drummer on the Kennedy Center honors for like 7 years, and I would play with all these artists honoring somebody. The year we honored Springsteen, he was one of the artists to come out. And he told me, I don't get along with people real good. And, I said, I'm going to ask, give me the tempo. Basically, he felt comfortable with me because I was in the band.
Right.
And I made sure, when he walked out, whatever he wanted, I accommodated him.
Yeah.
Was even more than I would do it with anybody. And when Sting came up to me and asked me for make sure you play this and do that. Absolutely. But John, I know him really well. So John, he wouldn't want these session players because he wouldn't get along with them. And so anyway, this one day, Don Gaiman, this producer, walks in with this metal box. I said, what's that? He said, well, it's a Lynn drum machine, Lynn 1. I said, what are you going to do with that? He said, well, we use this on this song that, it's not working. I'm going to be replaced by a drum machine. I got replaced by 2 guys on the last record. So it's triggering all these insecurities.
Yeah.
I grabbed the box and said, well, I'm going to program it so I can be part of it.
Yeah.
Program it, give them back. And then I'm in the control room. I'm in the lounge playing pool going like, God, once again, I'm the outsider. They're making a record. I'm here playing pool. I was really bummed out. Then they pull me in to the control room, and John goes, we need a drum break. We need a solo. You got to make the song hipper. And I'm like, what? A solo on a ballad?
Yeah. That doesn't happen.
Long and short of it is I came up, I started, it's great. And then I hit a dead end. I'm in the control room. They're telling me what to do. Their ideas stink. All I'm thinking is I got to make this happen.
It's like a pressure cooker.
Yeah. And I'm walking back to the drums, as I said, in hired gun. I got 50 feet to save my career, 40, 30. What are you going to play? What are you going to play, Kenny? I don't know. 20, 15, 10. I'm really freaking. My back's to the drum set and the band in the control room. And I turn around, and basically what happened then was something that I've taken with me for the rest of my life. Was I took what I already was playing, but just presented it in a different way. Take something, instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I just did what I was doing,
Yeah.
but did it differently. So instead of like I went boom blam, instead of hitting on beat 1, I displaced it by an eighth note and started that figure that I was doing
Yeah.
an eighth note later. And it was enough for them to go, oh my God, that's amazing. Which was so it would go, instead of hitting 1, I go boom blam, 1, Same rhythm, which was the rhythm I programmed, which was the rhythm I was playing on the drum set originally. Bottom line is that song became John Mellencamp's biggest hit ever, featuring drums, Jack and Diane, one of the most iconic air drummed parts in the history of rock and roll, along with In the Air Tonight. And it launched me, and it put John on the map so big. Everybody was like, who's Kenny Aronoff? The room that I got fired in for that one record, at the Chateau Marmont, I was in the same room when that song went to number 1.
How weird was that?
Very weird.
Surreal, right?
Surreal. But here's what happened. Which I didn't know about myself. I go back and look at it like, wow. I was happy for about 2 seconds, and I started freaking. How am I going to do this again? Can I do this again? What's the formula to do it again? There is no formula. You know, I loved it. I was scared that people were going to think I was number 1, but I'm not really I mean, there was all of a sudden all this pressure.
Yeah, it's that moment of like, this whole time you've been upset that nobody expected you to do anything good. And now overnight, the expectation of you is huge.
Yeah.
Because every artist that brings you in expects you're going to do that for them.
Yep. That's exactly. It's a whole new level of pressure. So, you know, but the bottom line is it's been a long journey to get here. I wanted to give you the audience an idea of what I went through to make it just to that number 1 hit song. And then to go on, and then, you know, we did 8 years of, you know, record tour, Saturday Night Live 4 times. We went private jets. We were selling out arenas everywhere in the country with no opening act, just us. And we were just huge. And then John quit. Another huge event in my life. And
he was just done.
He was done. He was fried. I didn't know that. I just thought he was quitting because he was just, fuck you, I quit. I didn't know. All I knew was I just got divorced and I had child support and bills. I immediately put 2 renters in my house and I went to LA. I looked at the same thing once again. He said I quit for 3 years. I believed him, which he didn't. But he said it in such a way I believed him.
Yep.
And I listened to him say, I quit. And instead of staying at home, I did this. I've been working for one rock star. Now I'm going to go work for all the other ones.
Wow.
Went to LA, started beating the pavement, spent a year trying to, you know, just session here, session there. And just because you've been successful on a record doesn't mean that you're a session player. 2 different jobs.
Right.
Well, I was good at it. I could write. I could play all styles of music.
Yeah.
And I got a big break about a year and a half after that. Maybe it was just a year. And next thing you know, I'm playing Iggy Pop's record, and I'm playing Bob Dylan's record. I'm playing Elton John's record. I'm playing the Rolling Stones. I'm playing, you know, Bob Seger. And it went on and on and on. And Don was this great producer, was instrumental, and he made it just when I was trying to make it, and as a session player, and he hired me for a lot of stuff, and the rest is history. I became this humongous session guy, and I had 2 sets of drums in LA, 2 sets in Nashville, 2 sets in New York, and I'd fly all over the world doing records, and people looked at me as not only as a rock session guy, but as a country session guy.
Right.
And every other type of style. I'd work with like B.B. King and Ray Charles. Then I'd work with Alice Cooper and then Billy Corgan from the Pumpkins. And then I'd be with, you know, B.B. King, Bonnie Raitt, Buddy Guy, Ray Charles, then Leonard Skinner. I mean, it's just all over the place. And I made it happen.
Yeah, you kept going. You had that resilience.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's one thing that I've heard you talk about before is like in this business, you could be at the top and the next day you get a call that you don't have that gig anymore. Because it is that constant up and down. You know, in between all these major opportunities, there's those moments where you're not on the road. What do you do to encourage yourself other than just like, I'm going to keep going? Like, you know what I mean? What could you say to guys right now who are like, yeah, I was touring for 3 years and then I came off the road and I had been gone, so no one was thinking about me for gigs.
You can't. You have to. One step at a time, one phone call at a time, one email at a time. You have to keep. Only you can figure it out. I can't tell you take vitamin C and you'll be fine.
I love that.
It's not going to work. One step, you have to figure it out. Talk to people, communicate, find out where the work is, find out, learn, research, find out what's going on and act on that. That's the only thing you can do. And let people know what you want. Ask yourself, what are your 3 most biggest desires in, let's say, 2018? What are they?
Yeah.
And make sure that every day what you're doing is tapping into those 3 desires, or you could be wasting time. And eventually you'll persevere.
Yeah. And
You will.
you said at the beginning of this that like you don't look in the rearview mirror, you're always looking forward.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw this at you and we can take this out if you don't want it on there. But I would love to know what currently, with everything you've done, because most guys would be like, well, he did it. He did the thing. He's done everything he wanted to do. What are your 3 desires at the moment? What's something you want to do that...
First desire for 2018 is to build my speaking business up.
Yeah.
And since I announced that to myself or my wife or whoever, it has grown exponentially.
Yeah.
On many levels. The next thing was to make my relationship with my wife even better. Yeah. Which means there are considerations. I was always work ahead of, my agenda's the only agenda. I was nice when I was with my girlfriends or wives of the past, but if I had to practice, for 12 hours, I practice 12 hours and you just have to work around my schedule. Wow. Now I'm doing it differently. Yeah. Now I'm saying, no, I'd rather spend some time with my wife to have a better relationship because I want to have a great relationship with her. So I'll do that and wait till she falls asleep and then I wake up and go to work. Yeah. And she's sleeping. And, stuff like that. And the third thing is to become the best Kenny Aronoff I can possibly be in this short life we live. Improve it, become better, become wiser, listen, learn, Yeah. And I have a thing, I go, I do that. I listen, I learn, and I lead. And those 3 things, what you do is like, when you look at your day, and if you're wondering if you should do something, you ask yourself, is the thing that you're wondering what you should do, if you should do it or not, does it somehow tap into your 3 desires? And if it doesn't, you might not do it. You might consider not doing it. And people, you get people out of your life that are not helping this situation. That you're feeding into your most important desires. Yeah, you get that out of your system, and you have to ask yourself, why do you allow yourself to do certain things when you consciously are going, what am I doing? Why am I talking to this person? Yeah. Why am I hanging? Well, there is a reason. That comes from childhood shit. Yeah.
You got to do that work, man, and
deep childhood habits. And so what you do is you have to understand that and realize that's what's happening, and you have to make adjustments. Yeah. And you'll never be cured of the things we learned as child, and a lot of times those are things we learn to survive. Yeah, but they may not necessarily be working anymore in the new business model of the 3 desires that you pick. Yeah, and if they're not, you have to consciously make a change
to cut it out.
Yep.
That's so good, man.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm sitting here and I'm hearing you share, and the thing that keeps standing out to me, and when I was watching The Hired Gun, and just when I've seen you, like, I'm amazed at how you have this confidence, like you mentioned, we got to have the ego that's going to get us to actually do the hard stuff to get where we want to be. And yet you also have this side that is constantly auditing yourself and going, where am I lacking? What could I do time wise, relationship wise? Like that's a rare thing, my friend. Like, really? Yeah. Like, because there's some guys who are just like, the danger sometimes with ego is you can go, oh, I'm great, and then you stop growing. But you are constantly pushing yourself to go, nope, I could do that better. I could do that better.
Yeah, and people know me as one of the most, hardworking, busiest mofos on the planet. I've worked real hard to become that guy. Yeah. I am so Yeah, I'd say not overwhelmed, but I've got so much on my plate that one of the things I can't quite get done is because I've got so many other things is I'm trying to edit my second book. I don't even have time to do that.
Yeah.
So I've missed deadlines because I'm a musical director for a show that's coming up. I got a speaking gig coming up at South by Southwest. I just spoke at Marathon Petroleum, which was a certain teamwork type speech. And then I readjusted it for Psy Week. And then I've got sessions. And then, I squeezed in Jerry Lee Lewis concert, a Fogerty concert, Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys session.
Yeah.
That's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So what I do is because of time and straight lines, I try to be extremely present and focused at everything I do.
Yeah.
And if I need to rest, I rest.
That's good.
I really focus on that for 30 minutes and say, I need to rest or whatever it is. And then I go back at it and I realize, because I don't have enough time to do what I want to do. Time is time is, it's a mist, man. It's free. It's free, but it's priceless. It's something that you can't own, but you can use it. It's something, that you can't keep, but you can spend it. But the biggest thing is, once you use it, it's gone forever.
Yeah.
Gone forever. You can make money, lose money, make money, lose money. That's not gone forever because you can make more, but time, you can't make more. And that's why I'm not a retiring kind of guy. I mean, my mom is 92 and she said, she's going to be 92 in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go visit her.
Yeah.
She said, Kenny, let me tell you about time. I'm dying. My body is dying and I still want to live. There's not enough time for me to do what I want to do. I want to do more. I want to study more. I want to read more novels. I want to watch every movie on Netflix. I want to go to see the Boston Symphony Orchestra, the ballet. There's not enough time. That's what time is to me, Kenny. That was heavy. I was like, that's the thing. And
you think, how can it challenges you to go, well, right now, where I'm at, can I be present so that I could say, hey, I took advantage of all those opportunities.
Yeah.
I was really there.
I mean, if I would have died tomorrow, I would have had a pretty damn good life.
Yeah.
So I got that. And I have no regrets. I got scammed. I got divorced a couple times. Those things weren't fun things, but they made me who I am. And, man, no rear view mirror. Just keep moving forward.
So good, man.
Find your desirables. What is it you want? And make sure you feed into that as much as you can. If they truly are your desirables. And I could say this much. Once you pick them, you can always renegotiate your deal with yourself.
That's good.
That's good,
man.
You can always say, you know what? That third desirable is not what I want. I want to replace it with this desirable.
Yeah, and it's got to change, because if what you wanted when you were 20 is the same thing you want when you're 40, something's wrong.
Okay.
You gotta adjust. Kenny, thank you so much for doing this, man. This was so great. I'm going to put links in the show notes, guys. Go follow Kenny on Instagram, Twitter. Go check out his website, see where he's at. If you're working on a project, you want to get a hold of Kenny, he might have 30 seconds. Thank you for doing this, man.
Oh, you're welcome, man.
This was
Thank you.
Such a great moment for me. I appreciate you.
Good.